Hello, my name is Ben Bradford, and this is my informative presentation. Today I'll be talking about the year I was born, 1988. I was more specifically born on April 26th of 1988. But first I'd like to welcome today's audience. We have Jacqueline Uchinsky right here, stepping in. Thank you, Jacqueline. Nobody else is able to make it today, but she is here, and I'm very excited about that. Well, let's get on with the speech. 1988 was a very interesting year. Many long-term effects came out of this year. The events that happened in 1988 did affect the future, although it wasn't able to clearly see that then. For starters, 1988 had some very unusual weather. This ended up having some devastating effects to our national park system. It started out in the spring, in April 1988, with some severe spring snow showers. It started out with 35 inches of snow in New Mexico, which is very unusual that time of year, or any time of year really for New Mexico. And Colorado saw a snowstorm that brought 34 inches of snow, and this was from the same system. The weather system that dropped the snow in Colorado and New Mexico also wreaked havoc in Texas. There was some severe weather there. There was a tornado that touched down in East Mountain, Texas, caused $2.5 million in damage, and did have quite a bit of cleanup from that storm. Here in Michigan, April 1988 was pretty normal as far as the weather goes, but we had a very interesting summer. It was the third hottest summer on record in Michigan, and we had a record number of days that were above 90 degrees in temperature. This weather was also unique nationwide. Record highs were seen throughout the country, and there was a severe drought that affected the entire country in 1988. The corn crop was hit very hard by this drought. 45% of the crop was lost because of the drought, and Iowa was hit especially hard. I found it interesting that Iowa suffered from the drought and the corn production because I had some family from Iowa that was there, and they were farmers in the 1940s and 50s. Although they weren't farming in 1988, I did find it interesting that they were affected by the drought and the corn loss. All this weather accumulated in the storm or the fire that occurred in Yellowstone in August 1988. Yellowstone generally does have fires throughout the summer, and the fires that occurred throughout early season and in the middle of summer were fairly normal. Quite a few, about 25 fires were burning throughout the park. That's what to be expected. But the drought hit Yellowstone like it hit the rest of the nation, and the fires started to increase in intensity, and the firefighters started to have their work cut out for them to suppress these fires. But on August 20th, this became known as Black Saturday. There was widespread fire throughout the park. This was due to tremendous winds that kicked up throughout the day. The winds were over 70 miles per hour for most of the day, and it spread the fire throughout the park. This was known as Black Saturday because it was a record amount of fire spread for one day. Over 150,000 acres burned in a single day in a 24-hour period, which is a record for the National Park Service and any other fire in the United States. This fire burned a total of 1.2 million acres and eventually went out when the snow began to fall in September. Another interesting thing about 1988 was the terrorism that occurred in 1988. In April, there was an interesting event on the New Jersey Turnpike. A gentleman was arrested named Yu Ichirima. He had 3 bombs in his vehicle. He was pulled over by a state trooper. The bombs weren't deployed, so that was a good thing. No one was injured. They stopped him before anything happened. He did purchase the bombs, the bomb-making materials in West Virginia, and then was driving through New Jersey. The gentleman was from Japan, and he was a member of the Japanese Red Army. Luckily, nobody was harmed, and the police were able to stop him before he deployed the weapons. In August 1988, from 11th through the 20th of August 1988, Al-Qaeda was formed. This was a very big event for the United States history because Al-Qaeda planned the 9/11 attacks and is credited with many other terrorism activities throughout the world. Osama bin Laden is the ringleader of Al-Qaeda. He organized the event and led the meetings that formed the Al-Qaeda group. And U.S. intelligence was unaware of the meetings. They had no idea that this group was forming, and it remained so for 5 years. U.S. intelligence did not learn of Al-Qaeda until 1993. and they had no idea the effects that the group would have on our national security. Nobody knew that 9/11 would occur and that Osama bin Laden would be the source of the largest manhunt in United States history. So, in conclusion, 1998 was very, or 1988 was a very interesting year. Had some very unique weather patterns that led to one of the largest wildfires in United States history, and it had some very fundamental events in terrorism with the formation of Al Qaeda that led to the 9/11 attacks. Thank you for listening to my formal speech.